Why should you start a podcast for your business? If you've been on the fence about if this is really going to produce for you or not, then you need to hear about the amazing success that Jill Winger has been creating with her podcast. Jill Winger is the founder of the Prairie Homestead, an online space dedicated to helping people who feel disenchanted by modern life and want to return to their roots without foregoing modern conveniences. Her practical and authentic style of teaching and storytelling has won the hearts of over 750,000 homesteaders across social media who look to her for advice, reassurance, and creating, meals from scratch or taking care of their chickens, growing their first garden. Jill's been featured in People Magazine, Women's World, and BuzzFeed. And she's the author of the Prairie Homestead Cookbook that came out in 2019, which, by the way, is just beautiful. It's on my desk here somewhere. I love, love, love this book. But she has the golden touch with social media. Really, anything that she does it well. And Jill and I coached together when you were just kind of really getting things going. And I have people ask me all the time about you and like, how do you do what you do? Like, you're the most requested. How does Jill do what she does? And what I just tell them is I'm like, she figures out the platform and she masters it, and she puts in the time until she's figured out and mastered it. And so it's been really fun to watch you expand that platform into new places. So let's talk about the podcast. You want to kind of, first of all, share how your launch went?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it kind of was a mid-year thing, decided to, we have the blog, we have a little bit of a YouTube channel and all the social pages, but we're like, where can we take it next? And I really started to watch what was happening and noticed that podcasting is kind of the wave of the future. So we decided on kind of a quick timeline to get it ready to roll and then launch it in August. But it ended up, it did really, really well. And, having that existing tribe was helpful to get that momentum up, but I've been really enjoying it. I think probably enjoying podcast content creation more than any other platform right now. So I'm really a big fan. Like, I can't stop talking about it.
Awesome. Well, and your numbers have been out of control amazing. Do you mind sharing what your numbers were when you launched?
Yeah, so we charts on iTunes, which it's kind of a tricky place because you can't always track data like we're used to tracking elsewhere, but we hit the top charts, some of the new and noteworthy categories within the first 2 weeks of launching. And we're averaging right now about 3,000 to 3,500 downloads per episode, which for a show of, it's still pretty new. We've only been going, 5 months, but it's done well. It's definitely getting some notice. So it's making a splash with both our audience, and also we're getting some sponsorships on board. So it's kind of like that waterfall effect that I'm really digging.
I love it. One thing I do want to point out about your brand in general before we dig into podcasting is I think that sometimes people go after, they look at people like you and they think, I want to be an influencer, and they go after being an influencer first. And that is not how you built your brand. You built your brand after, I have a clear and specific message for a clear and specific person. And you were relentless about that message. And the other thing is that I think if people are looking to compare, they should understand that it took you 2 years before you even really had traction, right? I'm not making that up, am I?
Absolutely. No, you're totally right. And you nailed it with the clarity of who we're speaking to and what their pain points are. And I come back to that over and over again. And even being 10 years into this, with all the different channels now, I'm constantly continuing to refine that. Who is my avatar? What are their problems? How can I serve them in a different or better way? Over and over. And so really we just took that right into the podcast. And I believe with the messaging within the title of the podcast and the descriptions and the first episode titles, that also helped the traction do what it did and grow faster.
Yeah. And so, if you're looking at launching your first thing, so Jill launched first with, first was the blog, and then was Facebook page, and then Instagram came next, right? And then YouTube.
Pinterest and YouTube, and yeah.
Pinterest. I forgot about Pinterest. I always try to forget about Pinterest because I don't like it.
Yes, different animal.
Yeah. But what I want you to understand is you will go through the same process that she did in building your audience and establishing and refining your brand, and you can have the same results. So imagine your business 10 years from now when you've been consistently talking to, I mean, she has been talking to the same audience for 10 years about the topics and the pain points that matter to them. So I think sometimes we want to get there so fast that we're not willing to put in the time. And then we look at the people who are just doing amazing things, that they have the Midas touch wherever they go. And we think, well, why does that work for them and not for me? 10 years of effort and it will, you know? So, so Jill, do you want to give some specific tips on why they should start a podcast and what that process looks like?
Absolutely. So I'll move through these quickly because I know we're on a short time schedule here. So first off, if you're kind of on the fence, you're not sure if you should start a blog or a YouTube channel or where you should begin, if you're at the early stages, look at the stats. So just in some rough Googling, and I'm sure these aren't perfectly accurate, but according to Google, there's about 500 million blogs that are being indexed, right? Lots and lots of them, but there's less than 2 million podcasts. And it's similar numbers when we compare podcasting to YouTube. And so not that podcasting will continue to grow because it's growing rapidly, but if you want to get noticed more easily, I would go to the place where there's less fish in the ocean to start with. And so podcasting is a great time to get on board. And we can even see different celebrities getting on board right now, which they're going to bring a whole new group of listeners over to the platforms. So it's perfect timing to start, figure out who you want to speak to, how you want to help them, and start your own show.
I love that. Okay, so I definitely think there's a lot of merit in podcasting. What are your recommendations for them if they're wanting to jump in and get started?
Yeah, so that was one of my other tips is you can go whole hog fancy setup with all the bells and whistles, the expensive microphones in the studios. Or what I recommend is don't overthink the setup at the beginning and just start publishing. So you can even use the voice memo on your phone, get in a quiet place without echoes and background noise, but just start recording yourself and figuring out the flow and what you're going to do. Get it up, start seeing the feedback, and then you can always improve your equipment and get the better microphones. But I see too many people stuck in that paralysis by analysis, and they're like, I have to spend the next 3 weeks Googling microphones before I can start. I'm like, no, just get out there, start doing it, and the rest will come.
That is another thing that I think is just a success tip of yours, is you start first and then learn it as you go. Yeah. I've never seen you have analysis paralysis. When you say you're doing something, you're doing it within a very short window of time. So yep. I love that. Yep. Okay, what are your other tips?
Okay, so another tip to help you kind of get off the ground, if you're feeling like a little bit hesitant, is you want to have an idea of who you're serving and how you're going to serve them before you start your podcast. We don't want to have Jill's show about everything, because that's going to speak to absolutely nobody. So have a little bit of an idea, but the cool thing about podcasting, and I've seen a lot of people do this, you can use it to refine your messaging as you go. Because it's pretty easy to record a 15-minute podcast. It doesn't take a lot of time or monetary investment. So just start publishing different topics, try different things, try different formats, and see what works, what people are listening to, what gets the most downloads, what gets the most feedback. And you'll find the more you publish, you're going to start figuring out who you are a little bit more clearly and what your people need from you in more detail. And so it can be really powerful to almost help you refine yourself while you're publishing and putting yourself out there, which is all the better.
You know what I am also really digging about this is that you said 15 minutes. I think sometimes people think they got to be 60-minute shows, or they've got to be 30-minute shows, or I have to have guests on, and it really is flexible. And I mean, how many of you like to consume short content? I do. I'm more likely to watch or listen to a 15-minute segment than I am an hour long. It's nice to be able to get in, get back out.
Yeah. And that's what I've been doing. I know a lot of shows are that 45 to 60 minute, but I just couldn't do it physically because we're publishing 3 times a week. So instead of the long show 1 time a week, we do 3 times 15 minutes a pop. I'll have an interview guest on once in a while, but most of the time it's just me talking about an aspect of our life that people are curious about, or a little tip. And I think the shorter format is gold because it just fits our short attention span and our busy culture.
Yeah, and people can actually listen to the whole thing versus the longer podcasts. You know, they may or may not get to it. So
Right.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Good. Hey, we are almost out of time. I know 15 minutes goes by so fast. Do you have any last minute tip that you are dying to share?
Yeah, really quick. Another cool thing about podcasting, and this can go to any content type, but you can repurpose it. So you can take your podcast, you can record yourself talking into your microphone and get some video for YouTube. You can also then use your notes and create shorter social posts or Facebook Live videos. And you can even get the podcast transcribed into blog posts. So use it to feed all of your content channels if you have more than one. It'll just make your life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I hope everybody is picking up on this theme of repurpose content, repurpose content, repurpose content. Like actually, as we're talking, I'm like, you know, I don't really want to start a podcast right now, but I could totally take these summits and I could take the audios and repurpose them into podcasts. And we would have enough to do 2 videos or two a week for a podcast. Like that is a podcast, even if I don't want to record more.
Yes.
Aww.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Awesome. Okay, Jill, where do you want everyone to go and connect with you?
Yeah, so what I've done is I know one of the roadblocks to podcasting is not knowing how to format your episode scripts. So I've given you my script. This is what I've used This is what I've used right from the beginning to help me flow, and I follow it for every single episode. I put it in a PDF for you. Grab it for free over at theprairiehomestead.com/template, and you can get it right there.
Awesome. And I'm just going to say this, everybody should be following Jill, whether you have interest in chickens and cooking from scratch or not, because I watch everything that she does, and wherever Jill goes, I'm like, that's where we need to be going. She is so plugged in with what's working, and she is a master of social. I mean, she honestly could start a Jill Talks About Everything show, and she would build an audience. It wouldn't work for all of us. For her. So follow her, watch what she's doing, get plugged in, and just learn from a master of building a platform. I think, I could be wrong, but I think Jill, out of all of our experts today, has by far the largest social media following across all the platforms. So if you want visibility, this girl gets max visibility every single day. Every single day. That, you know what, Jill, you should figure that out. How many people see your stuff every single day across all the platforms? Do you know that number?
I don't, but I should know that number. That would be an interesting number to have. Yeah.
Find it and then tell me, because I can only imagine it's humongo.
It's over 100,000.
So yeah, Stephen just said it's over 100,000 for sure, and I agree with that. So
yeah.
yeah, cool. Okay, well, Jill, thank you so much for being on. We dropped